welcome into Sky Sport and the conversation as we continue our look at Super Rugby Aotearoa with our pre-season coaches catch up. And it is a pleasure to have the Blues coach Leon MacDonald joining myself, Rikki, Swannell and Joe Wheeler. We're off to a flying start. I can't say my name, so we're just going to let you two guys talk about how good it is in Marlborough.
Yes, please do.
There you go. There you go.
Well, Leon, you're a Marlborough boy, also known as Rangi. Talk to me about Rangi. Like, how did you get Rangi?
Rangi.
Yeah, well, Marlborough people pronounce it Rangi.
I get asked it a lot, actually. I played a lot of cricket as a youngster. As you do in Blenheim, you play rugby and cricket. And I think parents got me the shoes from some second-hand shop. They didn't fit my feet properly, and I was getting blisters. And Marlborough spent a lot of time on the field generally. And second day of a tournament, I had blisters, so I did my warm-up in bare feet. And I had a lot more hair back then. And at the time they said I was the Māori boy because obviously got a bit of Māori heritage, bare feet, running around with long hair in the warm-ups, and they started calling me Rangi off foot rock flats. So, so if you go right back to foot rock flats they come from there.
When you say a lot more hair, are we talking like you got long?
Yeah, I had
locks?
a mullet because that's sort of how we rolled back then, and
we still roll like that in Marlborough.
There's still mullets going on now, and I pulled it off. Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, I did.
Well, you must have pulled it off because, let's be honest, you managed to find the love of your life at a tender age, or her tender age of 16.
Yes.
And Hayley, everyone that knows Hayley, you're obviously well down the wicket in cricketing terms, batting well out of your crease. How did that come about, the relationship there, another Marlborough girl?
Just like the usual, you sort of like you go to a party, I suppose, and on a Saturday night, and obviously she liked the look of me.
What, the mullet or you?
The mullet? No, I don't know. I might not have had the mullet then. No, it was good. We did meet pretty young. She was 16, and I might have been 16 or 17. So we've got our 20th wedding anniversary this year. So we were going to go. I was telling her we were going to go through Europe, France, Greece, all sorts of places, but COVID stopped that. So I'm thinking maybe Waiheke Island.
Yeah, nice.
Plan B.
Yeah, that's not a bad plan B.
Yeah. That must be to have someone like that in your life and for kids. When you do what you do, she must be. I think it was shout out to Hayley. She must be an incredible woman to take on all of that as well.
She is. She's pretty awesome. Look, we've grown up together. She's seen, I missed out on teams when I was younger, missed out on New Zealand schools, and she was there. So that's how far back we're going. So the whole roller coaster ride selections, my first contract, we both shifted to Christchurch together and got our first flat. And then, 4 kids later, she was there through the tough times, those weeks where you're getting some stick in the media through performances or losses, into World Cups when we didn't win. And she sort of sits there true and loyal and 20 years on, marriage later, it's 25 years together, 20 years later, marriage, we're going strong. And she sort of, she rides the seasons. She just said, oh my gosh, we're about to play another season. So she feels that, because she's sort of the person that picks up the pieces or holds the brave face when times are tough in the family house, because they've got kids as well. So she tries to be the rock solid person to make sure everything's all okay.
I want to talk about your kids. So you started your family quite young with Harry when, I think it was 2000 or something like that maybe, and well, he's now at university as a 20-year-old running amok. But that journey actually was the start of your All Black journey as well, or the beginnings of your going deep into your professional rugby career. That must have been a bit of a whirlwind or a roller coaster ride for not only you living out your dream, but also starting the other phase of your life, your family.
Yeah. Well, 2000 was a big year. We got married that year. Had Harry at the start of the year. So timing was slightly out, but
good Catholic girl from Marlborough. Yeah,
he hasn't worked it out yet. He's like Jon Snow, but it was a big year. 2000. It seems like a long time ago now. I got named the All Blacks and had Harry, and and he's at university now and taking off, and it's awesome to see. He's into his rugby, plays for the Old Boys Club in Christchurch, the Polar Bears, and he loves that. Good club there, and studying at university, Canterbury University. So they have a great time. I missed out on university life, so I was sort of seeing what it could look like if rugby didn't take hold. But Yes.
It's all right, Harry. C's get degrees, mate. You're all good. Don't you worry. With having the kids, though, too, were you and Hayley mindful of maybe protecting them a little bit from criticism or difficult times, and especially, and as a coach now, too? Is that something you guys have been aware of?
Yeah, look, they still hear stuff and cop stuff and read stuff now, and it definitely gets easier when you get older. I've had it now for a long time, so it's a little bit of a, it's okay for me, but I feel for the kids because they read everything and take it personally, and I think the best thing I can do is just keep reminding them that it's not that important. You know what you got to realise that a lot of people will say stuff behind a keyboard, and it's really easy for them to say stuff, and a lot of them haven't had to venture out and put their head above water like that and put themselves in those sort of positions. So they're understanding that, but it's still the comments in the playground, and that is difficult for kids, but it's also good for them to learn a little bit around, you know, how important, you know, you think before you type, because it's a lot of people don't, you know.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
they've seen the other side, so I'm hoping that, you know, that they're probably a bit more responsible with when they make comments, and it does affect people.
In terms of your rugby career, Rang, obviously started in Marlborough for the mighty Red Devils, and you won Division 3 title with them, and then transitioned as a young man still down to Canterbury, the Big Smoke. Can you sort of tell us a little bit about how that came about? Because I know there were some significant influences in the Marlborough community that helped make that happen, or enabled that to happen.
Yeah, look, I was playing for Marlborough at a pretty young age. I think I was 16 when I first played, and I was living the dream. I loved Marlborough. Growing up in Marlborough, I loved playing for the Red Devils. I used to watch the Red Devils, you know, as a kid every single weekend. So really happy. And we played a game over in Wellington, a pre-curtain raiser to Wellington. we were playing Horowhenua. And after the game, a guy, Frank Walker, was the coach of Wellington, made contact. He watched me play in the warm-up game, the curtain raiser, and he offered me a contract to go to Wellington. And at the time, you know, I didn't even think about moving away from Blenheim. So I spoke to my trusty old mentor, Kieran Kane, who was my coach at the time, school teacher. And he just said, hold fire, and he rang up Wayne Smith, who was down in Christchurch, and said, jump in the car, come and watch Marlborough play next week. So Smithy drove up to Blenheim and watched me play the following week, and so I ended up having a decision between Christchurch and Wellington, and Christchurch just seemed a better fit for me for some reason. I don't know why, and it's always one of those swinging door moments where you just wonder what if. You know, yeah. Cully was only sort of, you know, moments away from playing for Wellington, so I could easily have not played a lot of rugby there, and yeah, obviously had a great time in Christchurch. Learned a lot from some very good coaches. Lucky to be coached under Robbie Deans and Wayne Smith and Steve Hansen, and had some great administrators there as well. So yeah, very fortunate that I made the right decision based on some good advice from Kieran Kane. Well,
you both have had. Kieran Kane's had a lot of influence on both of you. Probably to belie the gruff exterior. What is it? A couple of mutton heads.
Yeah, a couple of mutton heads. Yeah, no, he has had a massive influence on both of us. But I think for you, Rangy, like it would have been really special because you sort of went down to Canterbury. Obviously, you became an All Black great and a Crusader great. But then full circle, your career got cut short with injury, and then you go full circle and you're back with Kieran Kane again. Coaching me with him at the Tasman Marco. That must have been quite surreal.
Yeah, it was surreal, but it felt like it meant to be. Like I sort of sat there when I was in Christchurch going, man, I'm not going to play rugby anymore. And Shane Drummond, who's sort of a pretty key figure down in Nelson in the Tasman Marcos, has been a big influence here. He sort of rang me up and said, look, what are you going to do now? And so I ended up thinking about it and spoke to KK, and I thought, man, it just seems to fit to be able to go home and give back to Marlborough again and start again in a new career. So it sort of, they did it, you know, Marlborough got me underway with 3 years for the Red Devils before I went to Christchurch and so forth, and then I sort of thought, it ended up being 9 years with Tasman, 4 years under KK, and it sort of got my next stage of my life, which was rugby coaching underway, and you know, the same sort of grounding, humble little town, proud, fight above their weight, scrap, you know, and fight, and those principles or values sort of hold true to what I try and coach now, you know, in the Big Smoke in Auckland. So, yeah, very grateful of that pathway and very lucky, I suppose, that, again, my timing was right with KK being at the right place at the right time for me.
Had you had any sort of idea that you wanted to coach as you were getting into those later stages of your career? I guess because of the way it ended, perhaps it was more abrupt than you might have imagined.
Yeah, look, I had a feeling I probably would end up coaching in some capacity. I was always a part of the strategy groups, and I probably looked at footage a bit more than most players because I was a bit of a rugby nerd. I watched most of the games on the weekend, even though we weren't playing it. Most of the other guys were doing other things, had a life. So I sort of had a feeling that I was going to end up that way. I got told by Robbie Deans I was always going to be a coach, so I normally did what he told me to do anyway. And at the time I sort of go, oh look, it'll be a gap fill until I work it out, you know. I don't know if I can do my whole life in rugby, but it's a bit of a drug for me. I get a real thrill in game days, you know, I get that sort of that adrenaline rush, and I love the challenge and all those. Sometimes it's really hard. Those hard weeks are the ones that, you know, feel really good when you get it right. So it is in the blood.
In terms of, I suppose, that coaching journey, you spent so much time with Tasman. You must feel some immense pride. Obviously, you've gone back-to-back premiership champions. You're involved in a championship win. But from when you started, the battlers of the competition, sort of middle of the table, to then now being sort of the trendsetters of that competition, you must feel some real pride in that.
Look, I'm proud of the journey that we took with Tasman. No doubt, we scraped and scrapped and had all sorts of issues. We had no money. I remember one year the CEO come in and said, "Look, if we can have our lights off in your office, please, and make sure there's printing's always done in black and white, and only print if it's necessary, and there's no heat pump." You know, that's how dire it was there for a while. So to have that sort of restrictions on you. I drove to Christchurch once to try to sign a player up, and I had to pay for the petrol, you know. so it was a tough old gig for a while there, but we had really good people, and you know, like, we had a good culture, had some fun guys who drove a lot of fun off the field, and we worked out how to work hard off the field to get success on it. So yeah, it was good fun.
I want to talk about your Crusader journey now. You went down there just for a season under Razor, and then you just finished 1 year when you had another year to run on your contract. The reasons behind finishing up and then going back to Blenheim again to be with your beloved Marco?
Oh, look, it was only actually a 1 year with the right to extend, so I wasn't cutting that short. So I just sort of make that clear. I didn't walk out on the contract. And the reason it was only a 1+1 setup was because our kids were at school at the time, and we weren't ready to shift them. They were starting college, and it was sort of those important years at school. We would like to keep them settled into secondary school. And I also had this burning desire really to get my teeth into some head coaching, because at some point when I wanted to shift into Super Rugby, I wanted to have some head coaching experience behind me, so that if there was an opportunity to step up to a head coach, that I had the experience to do so. So there was a bit of a plan in place. I would have loved to come back, but just the unsettled nature of the kids at school in Blenheim and shifting back and forth at the time wasn't quite right. So we just held steady for another 3 years, and as the kids got through their schooling and out the back end of it, it felt like the right time to make that shift to Super Rugby more permanently.
Would you ever, if in a million years, expected it to be the Blues?
Yes and no. No, not really. Like, because we grew up, you know, the Blues hated the Crusaders and the Crusaders hated the Blues. It's one of New Zealand's best rivalries, you know. But yeah, you've got to be realistic. Everybody changes teams, you know, generally, and it doesn't take long for your new team to become your new colours and become really passionate, because you get to know the people, and you start to care for them, and you start building a bond as a team. And you know, walking through the doors for the first time at Blues HQ was a bit funny. You know, I didn't feel like I belonged there, but I'm really proud now to take people through there, and it feels like home, and there's a lot of familiar faces that make me feel really welcome there. So it's been a good shift.
Obviously, moving to Auckland, you rented as soon as you got here. Was that just pure, not so much confidence that you're going to last, because there had been a bit of a turnstile of coaches at the Blues?
There's a little bit of a wait and see approach. I didn't want to be as gung-ho to go and buy a house. Just wanted to see, you know, how things went for a little while, which is smart, obviously.
Yeah. In terms of 2020, well, the Super Rugby Aotearoa, you must be really happy with the evolution of the Blues, like sort of a coming of age for the team in many respects. What were the areas of the game that changed to get that growth?
Yeah, look, I felt that we made some good shifts last year, the year before, 2019, and although the scoreboard didn't reflect it, we were competing really well. We lost quite a few games close, and I think back to my time at Tasman, we had a year where we lost a lot of games close, and the next year we managed to start converting a few more, and it pushed us up into playoffs, and that was sort of, I felt the same here with this year. We were close last year, but we started to steal some games at the end, and just, you know, second year understanding the structures that we're bringing in, second year understanding expectations around preparation, just growing the squad and understanding each other, how we play, and a good settled core of players. And I think second year with the coaching group being together, we probably understood how we work better as well. So just things started, you know, moving well. I felt sometimes we played some really good rugby. I thought probably our performance against the Highlanders down there before COVID hit, we strung some good rugby together and put them under the pump, and we were really, you know, for the Crusaders game, we're just sort of building up nicely. So definitely happy with the season.
We've heard a lot about environments and how important that is to keep that growth and keep growing the team. I think in terms of the Blues environment, challenging, one, culturally quite diverse across the board, and two, geographically really hard for a big city to get together, like not as easily as, say, the Highlanders or the Crusaders. How do you approach that, and what needs to change?
If you put the effort in and you want to hang out with each other, you can make it happen, or you can make an excuse and not make it happen. And I think this year the guys invested in spending time together away from the field, because ultimately you're going to go to battle together. So you know, the more you know your mate and your brother, the more you'll play for each other. And I feel we've made some really good progress here.
This 2020, we've probably seen what we've all been waiting for a while with Akira Ioane. What have the Blues done to get him to be playing where he has for this season?
Look, he was just, firstly, I thought his performance was outstanding, and it was fantastic his last test that he played until he had to go off because of the red card. He was in good nick. What has the Blues done? Look, probably Akira's decided personally to make a change. I think he's you know, well documented around some of his troubles and tough times, and I think what we've provided is some really good support to him, a lot of encouragement, and we've just sort of been there for him really as he worked his way through. And when I say the Blues, I'm talking the players and the club who care for him, and you know, he's got a really close relationship with Tana. And Tana's been, you know, a good mentor for him, and also Tom being the forwards coach. So, yeah, I think we've been his other safe place. Obviously, got his home and his family, but he knows at rugby that he's well respected and well accepted there. And the boys, they had his back, and as he started making progress and his game started growing, you just see the confidence come, and the way he's playing the game now, he just looks like he belongs at Test rugby.
2021, obviously you've lost Bowden for the year. He's gone over to fill his pockets with yen, as you did many a time. And
oh, hang on a minute.
You're nowhere near as yeah, calling the kettle black.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, it's not about me. It's about Leon.
Of course.
Hey, we know that. The 10-15 split that you did last season with Ortedi at 10 generally and Bodie at 15, are you going to stick with Oates at 10 and then maybe a Stephen Perifeta, or are you going to go Harry Plummer in those positions? What's your balance looking like in that?
We could. I think it worked because there are a couple of things. You know, Bodie was new to the team. Oates was a formed player. Bodie's been playing a lot of fullback. Bodie wasn't goal kicking at the time because he was reconfiguring. Thank you.
That'll do.
Like he was changing his kicking. So he was playing around with his kicking technique, and it just took a bit of pressure off him because there was a lot of expectation and pressure on Bodie anyway, you know. So to step up into a new team, drive the game, pressure of the goal kicking on his shoulders, settling into a new city, it was a nice fit. And the plan was always to move him forward in the second half of the season, which we end up doing. So whether we do that again depends on the circumstances. Obviously, it's got to fit the team and the players. We're lucky enough to have a really good pre-season period to see. We've got some young players that we've signed coming through. We've got a lot of potential. Got a lot of. I'm pretty excited about some of our younger talent coming through at fullback in particular. And you know, there's going to be a good jostle for our 10 jersey as well, with Oates being the incumbent and Harry Plummer driving Auckland really well this year, and Stephen Perifetta, I thought. You know, he had a tough year with Taranaki, but his personal form was outstanding. So, yeah, it will depend on who puts their hand up in pre-season, but we do have that option, definitely.
How do your players handle, particularly going into this season, a different kind of expectation? For so many years, the expectation of the Blues wasn't always that great, and now after what happened in Super Rugby Aotearoa, there are expectations, huge crowds at Eden Park, and people were thronging back. So particularly some of those younger ones who may be going into a second or third season, how do you expect them to handle those expectations?
Yeah, look, it's different. You know, it's something the Crusaders have done well, and something the All Blacks do very, very well, is they learn how to push themselves throughout the week when they're favourites. You know, it's very easy. It's probably the easiest thing in sports is to be written off and be the underdog, because nobody expects you to do well. Yeah. So you've got nothing to lose. Whereas when there's the expectation to perform, that's different. So that's something that we'll be, you know, as a coaching group and leadership group, we have to work that out ourselves really quickly. But you know, we felt that even last year there was an expectation on us to win now. So we you know, it's not that foreign to us now.
It looked like they were taking a lot more responsibility in terms of the team's performance and the accountability around the way you were playing. Is that how you've sort of tried to grow that amongst that group? Yeah,
look, it's been a growth area, and it's still a growth area. Definitely, we've got a group of guys that are just really hungry to be part of a successful Blues team, and I think the first thing we need to do is we need to learn how to challenge each other in a way, and that's been hard work, especially with the demographic of our group. You know, it's not easy to call your mate out, you know, and it is a skill that's hard to learn. You know, down south, it's the opposite way. You got to pull your jets, mate. Jesus, that's a bit personal. But you know, we're trying to find our way, you know, and we are finding our own way. We don't have to copy any other team. We just got to find the way that works for us. And I feel we're sort of starting to find that. And yeah, no, without Bodie there, he made a big difference. Without Dan Carter there, you know, there's some gaps to fill, but I think we're making some good progress here.
All right, type 5, quick fire. I'm mildly concerned where this could go, but anyway, we'll leave you to it.
Yeah, no, I'll keep it PG. Ring. Young Blues player that we've got to look out for in 2020 that you're most excited about?
There's a couple. We've got quite a few.
Yeah, one. Just one.
Quick fire.
Yeah, that you're most excited about.
I thought Zan Sullivan at fullback for Auckland was fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Big.
Have you signed him up yet?
Yes, yeah. He's locked away.
Okay, good.
Yeah, 10-year contract.
Weekend getaway. The Marlborough Sounds or Waiheke?
Marlborough Sounds. My God, can you get better than Blue Cod from the Marlborough Sounds?
Tattoos. Do you have a tattoo?
Yeah, I do, but I'm not showing.
And what of?
I'm not showing you.
What is it?
It's a little private one, thanks, Joey.
And what's it of, though? What's it of?
Let's keep it at that. I'll send you a pic.
Oh, jeepers. I was just about to ask where it is, and no, I don't think we need to go there. Carry on.
Who's your personal little player favourite? Like, I know I was when you were at the Tasman Marco, but who's your little fave in the Blues?
Look, this is going to set me up for a whole year of absolute disaster, and the poor kid's going to be caught son of, and that's not good either. So I'm going to try and avoid that one.
Oh no, you've got to. Everyone's given it. Everyone's done it. Do you want to know who they answered?
Who?
So Razor was the Colonel.
Tom Sanders, yeah.
And Jace was Nani.
Really?
Yes. So please.
Can I say Bodie?
What a cop out. Superstitions, have you got any? As a player first and then as a coach?
I'm a cricketer, so we have superstitions. It's just part and parcel what you do. Yep, I would do the same circuit every morning of the game, and I had to keep beating my time as the season goes on, so I'd sort of sandbag the first few circuits to make sure that I get there at the end. Yeah,
because you coaches usually have a big night the night before too.
that's
Fabricated, right?
Coaches.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Leon MacDonald. We better get out of here while we can. That was the conversation, our Super Rugby Aotearoa Coaches pre-season. You can find us wherever you get good podcasts on the Sky Sport Presents social media pages and, of course, here on Sky Sports. Stay with us for more from the conversation.